Section 14.4, that's where we are now, and we are on the Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System called MACRS. And I do believe that I meant this to be a capital C right there. But anyway, so funny the things you don't notice, even though I've gone through these lessons so many times. Here we go. So this is actually the IRS way, and it is based on some different kinds of charts and rules and things. Federal law, tax laws state how depreciation must be taken for income tax purposes, and we've got these charts you'll see here in a minute. Provides users with tables giving the useful lives of various assets and the depreciation rates. Now, I put the key points here. Quite honestly, you just have to learn how to work through the method and use the charts because we're not really going to get into a lot of this information. So I'm going to let you just read this on your own. Just pause and read through this and know we're really just using the charts here. That's what I'm going to teach you. But I did want to give you this information from the book. But as always, whenever it comes to things with the government, it sounds complicated. It sounds complicated to me. And I will point this out. We ignore residual value. So if you're given the residual value, you just ignore it because with MACRS, we actually depreciate all the way to 0. So like I said, we calculate this depreciation for tax purposes, and you can read through the rest on your own. Just pause this for a moment and take a look. Here is the MACRS table. This is one of the ones that you would have to use if you were actually working out the depreciation schedule. You would need to know, am I doing a 3-year, a 5-year, a 7-year, whatever. And so you would look at it and find the item that you're depreciating. Notice we can even depreciate a racehorse if it's more than 2 years old, or any horse other than a racehorse that is more than 12 years old, special tools of certain industries, all kinds of things that you can depreciate. A lot of times we work with things like automobiles or furniture or something, furniture that maybe is used in an office. So you can refer back to this chart when you need it. It's in your textbook also. And then here are the percentages. Now, if you go check and you add these all together, you're going to see that, excuse me, these percents add up to 100%. Also, if it says you're in the 3-year class, you do 4 calculations. If you're in the 5-year class, you do 6 calculations. And the 5 year is the one that we probably use most often. If you're in a 7-year class, you have to do 8 calculations if you're doing the full schedule. Sometimes you'll be asked questions and it'll just say, to find the depreciation for year or whatever, which is nice because then you can just go across and say, okay, they want year 4 and I'm going to use this percent. And you can just find that percentage, calculate it. The nice thing on MACRS is we actually calculate on the book value of the item from the beginning and it stays the same. So we use the same number to calculate. That's because we're depreciating completely down to 0. So this is a depreciation schedule for equipment costing $3,500. It falls in the 5-year class for MACRS. We're going to go look at those percentages in just a minute. First, I want to fill out the chart partially. So for cost, it's going to be the same number all the way down 3,500. We're calculating with 3,500 6 times. Kind of like 5 times in a way because we have the percentages that are the same for 2 of the years. So every time we multiply times 3,500, and then we're going to multiply by our percents, which we will get off the chart over here. So we're going to be using these as we calculate here. I'm going to take that back off there because we can use different numbers. So 20%, 32%, 19.2, 11, here's the 2 years, 11.52, 11.52, 11.52, 5.76. So I'm just going to write these all out in decimal form. And I don't have these memorized, but I am very familiar with them because I've used them many times. But, you know, I always work these out ahead of teaching this on the videos, so I'm not trying to teach and calculate at the same time. So I would suggest just go ahead and write out all your percents in decimal form, and then we'll calculate. So we just multiply to get our amounts. All right, so the first one is 700. And you can actually just go down the list and calculate those and then do our other types of subtraction and various things. So 672 for this category. And then the next two are exactly the same. And notice even if they need to be rounded, we want to round them to a whole number, the nearest whole number, based on rounding rules. And last we have 202. Now our accumulated depreciation will just be, we'll just add this up line by line, right? So we start with 700 and then we'll add 1120 to 700, so we get 1,820. We're going to add the 672, 2,492. Add 403, so 2,895. And then we're on 3,298 when we add the other 403. And then we add 202. And so this is another check. Hey, look at this. It added up to 3,500. I must be on the right track here. And then that's just another way to kind of check this out. Then our book values. It's just going to be 3,500 minus the 700. And then 2,800 minus 1,120. So we are at 1,680. And then 1,680 minus 672. 1,008 minus 403. 605 minus 403. And notice that matches that last amount. And here we are now at 0. Remember, MACRS depreciates all the way to 0. And that's because our percents add up to 100%. So we calculate by our book value, our beginning book value every time. Okay, here's the next one. For the first 2 years, calculate the depreciation expense for some $14,000 furniture under MACRS. Now, we're going to go back to that chart. We're going to do the first 2 years. Going to go back to the 7 years. So we're going to use 14.28% and 24 right, here's my 7, and 24.49, and all we have to come up with is the amount of depreciation for the first 2 years. Okay, so the furniture, and we is what we're depreciating. It was a 7-year recovery period. Remember, we don't have residual value, and the time is based on the fact, oh, I guess I should have forgotten. Let's see. I didn't really go back to the right chart. So the furniture is right here in the 7-year. I told you the first chart before I knew the furniture was on the 7-year. That was the thing. So it's on the 7-year chart, and then you go to the 7-year percents that you need, and then we can calculate. So for the first year, we're going to take 14,000 and multiply it by the percent from the chart, which was 1428, and reminder, right? 14282449. That's the numbers we're using. So 1,999. And then year 2, 14,000 times 0.2449. Always change those to your decimals. And it's 3,429. Our total depreciation then will be 5,428. Okay, so not too bad if you just have to go back and calculate, you know, just a couple of years worth. Okay, this last one is a little bit trickier because we're going to do a couple of years of depreciation for each method. So we have to do some different calculations on each one, which hopefully will help remind you of all these different things we've done. Okay, so we're going to start out with straight line. Remember, with straight line, we have cost of machinery, $92,000, residual value, 6,000, useful life, 5 years. Estimated units produced 100,000, actual production 50,000 and 25,000. So different parts of this we'll use for different methods. On the straight line, we take the 92,000, we subtract 6,000, and that is the amount we can depreciate, right? $86,000. We're going to divide that, right, by 5 years of useful life. I've used 5 years a lot, but it can be different. So each year we take $17,200 in depreciation. And remember, straight line means we do the same thing each year. So we're going to take this much depreciation each year. And then units of production, we're going to take the 86,000. We calculated that on the last thing. Divide it by the number of units we can produce. And then that's going to be 0.86 per unit. And we multiply that by the two numbers given, 50,000 times 0.86. And I'm just going to put that, when I multiply that, I get 43,000. I don't have a ton of space here, so I'm going to do it this way. In year 2, we're going to take 25,000 times 0.86. Basically, it's going to be half of that, right? Because 25,000 is half of 50,000. So 21,500 for that one. Declining balance, we'll just use the 200%, which we know we've done this a few times on these videos. So we're going to do 40% per year. So we take for part 1, let me do a different color, 92,000 times 0.4. And then that is 36,800. So that's our amount for the first year. And then we subtract 36,800 from 92 and we get 55,200 times 0.4. And that's 22,000. I'm going to pause this and finish filling this out, and then I'll just talk about it because we're almost out of time. I finished the declining balance, and you can see the two amounts. Remember, we multiplied 92,000 and the 55,200. And then for MACRS, we multiply the full amount times our percentages from the 5-year class of 0.2, 20%, and 0.32, 32% to finish out over here. And then you can just kind of see that the different methods give you different results as far as the amounts each year. This is the end of our depreciation lessons. Bye, everyone.